Last week was a complicated time for many people. Post election, reviewing the world in a different way, seeing it through new eyes, not liking what we saw or loving what we saw, totally dependent on your perspective. Um, but I gave my weekly talk to the class, and normally I would have 200 or 300 people online who would come and listen to these talks, but last week it pushed toward 5,000. That I didn't understand. I don't know how these things proliferate or how they work, but it made me deeply aware that there's a need out there for some kind of guidance and help, insight. And, you know, I in no way think I am the person who can provide that, but I am one of many voices that can speak to, in some ways, the moment. Uh, and it's interesting, though, that to approach speaking to the moment, the core directive or insight in my mind at this point in time are the words know nothing. Because you would think if you're going to speak to the moment, you should know something. But I truly don't. That may be valuable. It may also be a reason to click off right now, which is fine. Uh, but last week was really interesting. And I described my original experience of seeing the world change in front of my eyes as a kind of calm, centered awareness. And I even predicted weeks before that we were going to have huge transformational, universal, cosmological change in our lives. And that's exactly what's happening in my mind. Uh, where it goes, how it goes, I don't know. And, if you are among those people who look at headlines in newspapers or anything like that, and many of you have already told me you're no longer doing that, but I would say you might want to look and see what's happening, at least to be somewhat aware. It's rather fascinating to observe the arrival of very powerful forces that will be touching your life or not touching your life. There are ways, I suspect, to live a life where there is massive universal change, and you are in some ways left quiet in your own home or your apartment and going about your day and about your business and having very little sort of impacted aspect from the world's transformational aspect. But it may also come to your door. And so I watched this week unfold in a lot of different ways, really kind of fascinating, which is really about that which you feel separate from and in some ways protected from is an illusion because it does arrive. And for me, it arrived in a lot of different ways, some of them very, very direct and personal. Um, I have a pond outside in front of my house. Those of you who are here in the room or drove up today, you could see it's almost a puddle, and it has a fair number of fish in it that I and Blanche love. We've named them. We feed them all spring, summer, early fall. They are part of our existence, and their home is falling away. The aerators that make the pond comfortable for them, two of them are gone. They're not working. One remains. I don't know how deep the water is, but it's maybe 18 inches at most. And this is an 8 foot, 9 foot pond. So you can imagine how much evaporation has occurred in the world around us. And I name that, and I'm not the only one probably, global warming. A name that's pretty intriguing in terms of our world culture right now, with people thinking if we work together and we do the right things, we can help to eliminate or diminish some of its impact. But now we are moving into a realm where the urgency of that is dissipating because there are very large numbers of people who don't believe in it and who think it's not to be dealt with. I wish they could come and look at my pond. I wish they could feel what I'm feeling for my fish. We're trying to find someone who can come and take my fish out of the pond and put them in safe harbor for the winter. That may or may not occur. But I bring it up again because this is the world at my doorstep. It's not an abstraction. It's not something that you just, think will not happen to you. It happens to you. And then we started getting, probably many of you up here were getting these messages from the Weather Service telling you that we are in a emergency dry zone and be prepared for fire in this area because we're very wooded and very dry. And so I started thinking, okay, I've never in the East Coast faced forest fires coming at my house, but I thought maybe I should start to think about what would that mean? What are the things I would like to take out of my home if a fire was starting to encroach upon that? I started measuring the trunk of my car to see how much room I had for the various things that we have. And I took pictures of all my everything in my wallet so I could make sure if anything happened to my wallet, I would have images. And I was just thinking, my wife, God bless, thinks I'm crazy and that none of this will have any impact at all. And she may be totally right, but I am always a little bit of a Hollywood dramatist. And so I think about these things and try to prepare as best I can. I still don't know how you get everything in the car quickly enough or how you go or what direction you turn. But these are issues that are now arising. They're not abstractions. They are there in front of me. Of course, all the plants on my porch are dying because they're getting old. The summer's over. We had freezes and the hoses froze, so watering them became hard. And it's hard to watch beautiful things die, but they die with a grace that's unbelievably instructive. They they dry in part and they keep the flowers alive. The, 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 the roots and everything else get very dry and flowers stay until the last minute. And I look at that as a teaching and a blessing. I just go, you can flower up to the last second of your existence. And then finally, again, if this is too much about me, forgive me. My son works in the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. And I don't know of those of you, I don't want to, if you're not looking at the news, maybe turn it off now. But the person being discussed as the leader of the Justice Department is not somebody you would probably want leading the Justice Department. And his agenda is very frightening to somebody like me who has a kind of a sense of worldview and newsworthy events. And I've spoken to my son, who gave me a picture which I don't think is appropriate because of his involvement to share with everybody, really, but it is not unacknowledged in that world that change is occurring on a massive level, and how people will respond to it varies. So it is potentially life-changing for him and maybe for Blanche and I, because we have his back on every level and his wife's back. But again, the world that was abstractedly changing in an election 2 weeks ago is now knocking at my door on many levels. And I talk about that because, not that I'm wishing this upon you, but it may come knocking at your door. When it knocks at your door, it is not the same as being, oh, yeah, that, or isn't that terrible? And it's not like sitting in a cave and meditating and thinking, oh, this is fine. I can breathe into this and everything is beautiful and I don't have to interact with it. When it knocks at your door, meditation doesn't have to go away. Stillness, openness, surrender, acceptance doesn't have to go away. But I will tell you, it will involve new dimensionality of your muscle system. You are going to have to work harder because it's no longer abstracted on any level. It's right there. And if it is right there, you don't want to use meditation as a place to hide, as a release of stress and drama that is going to protect you and make you feel better. I mean, you can. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but it's more important than that because the world may really have impact on your existence and your material existence and every part of your life, not just in the world surrounding you somewhere. And if that happens, the one thing you're going to do and need to do is be stronger. Find a deeper capacity to engage the what is and to engage it without full knowledge because we don't have full knowledge. So the words not knowing become very powerful. How do you engage what is without knowing what it is? Well, it's kind of simple. You don't try to engage it with your brain and your mind and figuring it out because that will only have so much value. You try to go into a place that is experiencing and aware, but not cognating. It's just okay. You're feeling and knowing, if you will, through your gut, a kind of sense of the world that speaks to you and works, as I've described before, as a kind of a GPS guiding you. Now, I bring up GPS again, being very personal today. I had to go to a doctor's appointment and a little bit away from here, and I didn't know how to get there. And I turned on my GPS, and it got me right there, right where I had to go. It's always problematic when you get there because you don't know what building to go to, and but it got me where I wanted to go, and I went, oh, thank you for being my GPS. On the way home, my phone fell, and the GPS system stopped. And I stopped my car 3 times to try to reset it. It would not reset at all. And so I realized I have to figure this out on my own. And interestingly enough, and this is really intriguing to me, something in me started to talk about go left, go right. And then I suddenly saw a name of a very familiar road that we often take. And I went, oh, I know where I am. It didn't tell me when to turn, but when the time came to turn, something went, oh, and I turned and I got home. And I realized again, our reliance on all these outside forces are helpful, but in the end, this is the quietude of knowing that you need to rely on, or not knowing, just trusting, feeling your way through the moment, feeling your way. And if you have done the work in yourself, you will have a connection to a guidance. And if you have done the work deeply, you will trust it. And if you trust the guidance, it will be all you need to take you where you need to go at any given moment in time. But sometimes the guidance doesn't work well. And so you need to do this thing you do with your computer and your phone, which is reset. Turn it off, turn it back on, whatever it may be, to get it back to its working position. My GPS is working again. I got home. I don't know what happened exactly. All of a sudden, turn it on, go to the corner, turn right. It was all perfect. And I felt, thank you. Life realigns itself. It happens by itself. I don't know much. I don't know how to fix anything, but I do know that I am open to being fixed. I am open to being led. I'm open to being directed. And every one of us, believe me, none of you is as incapable as I am in knowing these things. And yet it's working for me. Therefore, I can extrapolate. It will work for you. Go deep. Do the work. Reach inside yourself. Ask for help to open. Ask for help to surrender. Ask for help to accept and to find your way through the moment-to-moment experience of life. In these times where things are a little bit at a distance from you, you may feel less urgency to do that. If your son is working for the Justice Department, it's not in a distance, it's right in front of you. It's right in front of you. If there's a pond drying up and fires perhaps at your doorstep. It's in front of you. More to come on many, many levels. And we all need to be prepared. And the real preparation at this point isn't running away, isn't going into a hiding place in your own even meditative life. It's showing up, being present, being available. And then I get into my usual talk, which I do, week by week by week. What is the best thing you can do as a human being in a time like this, where it's stressful and complicated and transformational and not necessarily to your liking? Stay open, stay open, and radiate kindness into the world. And I'm seeing it again. Blanche and I go to the supermarket usually on Friday or Saturday. More and more people there are radiating than I have seen in a long time. And I go, okay, this is important. Community is important. Small acts of kindness are important. That's one of the great directives of a spiritual life. You have something, an action you can take at any given moment to the people around you, both at the market and living with you in your house. You can offer the kindness that will allow moment to moment reality to be good, just to be good. Then I will say one other kind of a weird thing. I have listened to a number of interviews online of people that I have known now in the newspapers, especially most of the newspapers I read, people who have been vilified. Maybe a good reason, I don't know. But for some reason, I was led to listen to a number of interviews with these people where they're talking. And I will tell you, the thing that hit me more than anything was, oh, I don't know everything about these people. Oh, they're somewhat more articulate than I thought. Oh, they have a worldview that is not totally alienated from my worldview. And I started to see tiny little incremental things that made me think, I don't know it all. And if anything, title of this talk, I know nothing. I know nothing. I am available to being surprised by the world and the universe and by this sense, which is for me the guiding thing of my spiritual life, that, if you will, we are in good hands. Now, does that mean you won't die and suffer? No. Sorry, guys. There is no way out of leaving this world, usually with some discomfort. The only thing you can develop is a deep, deep surrender and say yes to the inevitable of life, whether it's in the distance or whether it's rushing at you or knocking at your door. You have to be open and in a dialogue with that which is infinite and eternal and strangely, inexpressibly, unknowably at the core of who you are. You may know that instinctively, you may know it intuitively, and you may not know it at all. The great gift of sitting quietly and of a meditative life is not to escape the world, it's to find the world. Find truth, find reality. It is to engage the true radiance of your core existence. And if you can do that, you will shine forth even in the darkest and most difficult times. But you will be tested in it, and you're going to have to work harder. And if the time to work harder for you is now, let me tell you, do it. Take a breath, ask for help all day long if you have to. Ask for help to radiate, to be kind, to surrender, to be open and available to transformative change, which you will, if you read the newspapers, is going to be more and bigger and louder and more problematic, perhaps, for some of you than you have ever witnessed before in this lifetime. But just know, as far as I can tell, it's part of something massive and extraordinary going on in our lives and in our culture. And you can run and hide in any way you want. I mean, you can, start drinking. You can smoke stuff. You can take pills and you can meditate. But what you really want to do is show up. You just want to show up. You want to be there. And if necessary, reset. And you can reset 12 times a day. reset. You don't need to know anything here because it's going to be challenged in so many ways, but you need to be available to this extraordinary transformational thing. And I'll leave you with one other little thing that came out of the New York Times yesterday, which was just really, really powerful. I'm not on TikTok, but the New York Times picked some TikTok broadcasts, if that's what you call them, of young guys living in Gaza in the war zone. And I don't know if you can find it online, but the humanity, the clarity, the warmth, the day-to-day mundane nature of what it meant to have little food, to wash your clothes by hand in a little puddle, to find a way to get through the day and yet be joyous and real and involved with everything and everyone around you. It was so inspiring. It was so simple. So all I can say is try your best to find the way to deal with the worst war zone experience imaginable and be free. That's the goal. I'm getting a low battery thing, so I will quickly ask you if there's any questions. I can try to answer, and if we run out of, if I run out of juice, I'll do a reset. You do a reset, and you'll have to answer the questions yourself. Is there anybody at this moment who has questions? You may have to yell up because I have two screens here. Okay, no questions. Love to you all. Robert, feel better. And I really thank you all for being here.